Okay. Hello. Welcome to the third Queer or Not discussion. This one is for our August book, which was Sorry Bro by Talene Voshkuni. This one was for the prompt discreet cover. I think that was the prompt, right? Let's just go back. Oh no, not discreet cover, the opposite of that. Out and proud. So a cover that looks like it'd be gay. It fits. Um hello. Yeah. I'm also very tired, so that's also why I'm not um super high energy. But um I think this was one of the not greatest hits of this book club. In previous months, people have put in the Discord, like, they finished it, they gave it this many stars. No one did that this time. And there was a bit more talk about potentially not enjoying it so much. So I don't think anyone has super enjoyed this book, which is totally fine. I I don't ever expect everyone to love these books. So that's fine. And I mean, I'm sure there are people out here that love this book, but I don't think any of us particularly did. I personally, I gave it 2 stars. I don't know what rating anyone else gave it. Was did anyone have a star rating that they gave it? Don't know if some people DNF'd. I was wondering. Yeah, I think Amy DNF'd, which is totally fine. But yeah, I ended up giving it 2 stars. When I originally put it through Core Pile, it was a 3, and I was like, that feels too high, which is kind of sad. Yeah, yeah. It's it's even hard to describe what was wrong about it. But like nothing was wrong per se. I think it just didn't hit. Um, but I believe this was a debut as well from memory, so it could just be that's kind of lowered all of our enjoyments. Oh no, I was so appreciative of all you were saying. I think it was just none of us had read it at the time. I think I only started it on the 19th, and I read it for like, well, I listened to it for a few hours, and then I stopped, and then I didn't pick it up until like a week ago, and then really like hit hard with it. But please always feel free to share your thoughts in the Discord, because it's always just good to read. I do need to get better at responding though. Yeah, yeah, it felt like a 2 star book. So I think one of the main things for me was our main character. And so in this book, it is about Nor, Nor. I can't pronounce her name properly, but her boyfriend just proposed to her in a really uncomfy kind of way. Uncomfy because it wasn't something she would ever want. It was more what he wanted. Um, like even including like the setting, like he did it at this bar that he likes that she doesn't like type thing. But that happened and she didn't say yes. and then he has to go to Germany for work or something, like the next day or something. It was very odd timing. And they break up, but not. It's more of a break than a break up, with the kind of intention that when he gets back from this work trip, they'll be together or something. It was a little confusing. And so during this break, she goes to her mother and she's like, "Hey, set me up with an Armenian guy," because she is Armenian, and she's like, I'll give the Armenians a try, because she hadn't in the past or something. And so her mother tells her to go to this kind of event that is happening in the city, called Armenian Now or something like that. And there are a bunch of different events that she goes to, and she's like scoping out some of the guys and, what would be preferable to marry and have kids and all those things. But then she ends up meeting Arabuni, who's kind of the one of the people that has like produced this event, and they hit it off and they start a relationship. But it was it's not even like miscommunication trope. It was outright lying that was happening, because like there was a third act breakup that was purely because our main character had been lying about so many things. I think our main character, she didn't sound like she was in her late 20s. She sounded like she was about 16. I mean, she even had a poster on her bedroom wall of Marissa from the OC, which I loved the OC shout out. The OC was everything when I was a teenager. But like by the time I hit like, I don't know, 18, that poster had come off my wall. And she's like, what, 27? And she still had it on her wall. I was like, just even something about that made it feel very juvenile. And the way she reacts to things felt younger than what her age was. It really was just her reactions to things that was a bit off putting. And she, like, in a way, didn't take things seriously and only did things so that other people would like her, including like her family members. And it was almost like she hadn't had time to, I don't know, find herself or become a real character. It wasn't like fleshed out enough, I guess. So that would be like a writing choice of, yeah, she didn't feel like a real cat. She felt like a romance character, and like there is a difference. So that was, yeah, I think that was like the main thing, was just, yeah, her kind of like juvenile-ish ways really hindered this. Yeah, yeah, that is annoying when that kind of thing happens. But yeah, that's totally fine. Right? That was another thing. The two main characters did not have any chemistry. And it was just like they saw each other and was like, yeah, you're hot. And then suddenly they have these deep feelings for each other. And I'm like, you don't have like compatible personalities, because Arabuni was much more of a like, I don't know, I want to say like a serious and put together kind of woman, but Na was like having a like rebellious phase or something. It was, I almost want to say they had like a power imbalance, but they didn't. It's a hard thing to explain. But yeah, this didn't feel like a romance, I guess. And that's kind of what it's been marketed as, is a romance. But it didn't feel romantic. I think they had one date that was kind of cute, but it was not a romance. It was a contemporary with some little hints of romance. But I think the cover on this is a bit misleading because that looks like a romance cover. But yeah, there was no romance between these two. I did not understand how Erabuni was putting up with Na the whole time because she came off like a whiny teenager. And I'm very sorry that my opinions on this are very present, but this is what we get for doing a live show after I was stupidly doing lots and lots of things. So now I'm tired, so my filter is a little damaged. But yeah, they definitely did not have much chemistry and did not feel like an even match. And then after the third act breakup, when they got back together, it was like, why? Why did they get back together? And that whole thing, like, this is another thing of why I didn't like Na, was because everything she was doing was in hopes that Erabuni would like her. And I mean, like, her job. She would do things for her job that seemed really important because she's a journalist, like a reporter, and she decides to do a story on one of these Armenian events, which would be a really cool thing, but she's doing it just so she can see Erabuni. And I was like, okay. If it was once, that would have been fine. But it's like she hinged her entire career on whether Erabuni would see it and like it. And then in the end, when she loses her job and needs to find something else to do, it's still she's doing all of this just on the hopes that Erabuni would see it. And that felt really uncomfortable for me and just like again, in a way, kind of that power imbalance and really inauthentic. Like that's something that Nah was coming off as just there was no genuine feelings inside of her or thoughts. It was all just how can she get Erabuni? And it felt like a little devious in a way. Yes, this was a hugely uncomfortable thing that happened. And I can understand the fear and the panic that went through Noah when she was outed and to just like grasp at straws to try and salvage the situation. But to let your mother tell people that the person that you have very strong feelings for was basically assaulting you, like, why would that even cross your mind as being a thing that's okay? Even in the midst of a panic, that was still a really not good thing to happen. And the fact that Erabuni still took her back after that, that wasn't good. Like, there are definitely, it's definitely awful to be outed. 1000%. Nobody should be outed. It's an awful thing to happen. And that fear of people finding out and not being ready for people to know, it is terrifying. And especially if you are in like a dangerous situation, it could be really, really awful. But at the same time, there's you shouldn't have to throw someone else under the bus just to make yourself seem like the better person, because in the end you're not the better person if you're letting someone else's name and reputation be absolutely tarnished, and it was a really awful thing to do, and, like, I want to understand it, but I couldn't, because she just let her mother think all these awful things, and then let the mother, like, go and tell everyone these awful things. Like, that's not good. Yeah, I really don't understand how Erabuni could have forgiven her, because, oh my gosh, that is such an awful thing to hear. But again, like, Erabuni, she felt like a love interest. She had the same kind of writing issues as Na, which was not feeling like a person, feeling like a character and very one-dimensional, kind of like I feel bad saying it, but yeah, they didn't feel like people, and so the fact that Erabuni did take her back was like, well, this fits the plot, and not so much fits the character that you wanted to build. You know, like, I feel so bad for being kind of awful about this book, but it was, yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, being infatuated is, yeah, everything this person does, you're like, oh, that's so amazing, and oh, I wish they'd notice me. But you have to be a person, and your person has to be a person, not just, I don't know. I think I'm just waffling on the same point. Yeah, there was a lot of cringy moments and phrases and stuff used, and Na especially was kind of um, victim to it. A lot of things that she would say to kind of skirt around the fact that she maybe liked women, even though she knew that she was bisexual for a long time. It would always just be like really cringy moments, and just like not fun, because you got a bit of that like secondhand embarrassment, and like just her trying to like flirt with some of these men was really uncomfortable, and like not in a fun way. It was never played off as funny, or it was trying too hard to be funny, I think, maybe. Which again sounds awful. No, for sure. I think I almost would have liked the book better if they didn't end up together, and if maybe there was like a scene where Na and Erabuni like met again, and Na would go up to Erabuni and be like, I'm really sorry about this, but well, not but and you helped me learn these things, and oh, because of you, I'm a better person, type thing. Like, it would have been better if they could just have that, like, almost like a respect for each other, like, at the end, but not be together, because they also just didn't have chemistry. And, like, I don't think I could forgive someone if they accused me of the things that Na was gonna let her mother accuse Erabuni of, like, was not good. Yeah, definitely. I really wish we could have seen more of Na's growth, because it felt, like I said, like, it felt very she was doing this for Erabuni, not for herself. And there were, like, these little tiny moments of where it almost seemed like she was doing it for herself, but then it always came back to Erabuni. And I was like, I wanted to see her grow as a person for herself, and, like, take that responsibility and maturity and grow with it, but it was always just about Arabuni. Definitely, that is exactly what it was. 1000%. Yeah, a coming of age. See, that would have been cool. A coming of age when you weren't a teenager. That would have been really interesting. That would have been cool. I did. There were a few things that I wanted to just mention. There was a thing that just got really brushed over towards the beginning of the book, I want to say, but it was during that first event that Niall went to where she met Erebuni, and she like was flirting with one of these guys that was like at the top of her mother's list. And she was like, oh, he's like flirting back, it's great, fun times. And then she goes off to the bathroom and he's like hitting on her or something. And the way he went about that was so, so creepy, to the point of like, is he going to assault her? And then Na just like laughs it all off and like does finally dodge him and gets to leave because he was like blocking her in with his body. And some of the things he was saying too, it was just like, is this about to do that? And then one of the side characters or something, they said, oh yeah, he doesn't understand the word no. And I'm like, are you seriously putting this in and then just laughing it off? And like, this is a 2023 release, and in 2023 we should not be having these kind of casual mentions of sexual assault or harassment. Like, it was just so brushed under the rug or played for laughs. I was like, that could have been a very serious situation because they were alone in a bathroom. No one knew that they were there. Anything could have happened. And then to just be like, oh, that's just him. That's not okay. And especially not, in 2023. Stuff like this should not still be happening. And then when that guy came back later on in the book and he was like, oh, so that's the reason that you didn't want to be with me. It's because you're a lesbian. And I was like, why is this guy in the book? Because he's disgusting. And yet everyone thought he was the most attractive and he had all the good qualities. I'm like, yeah, except like to be a decent human being. It just, it was gross. It was gross. So I did not appreciate that that was just played for laughs. Um, Another thing was this phrase that got used. It got used once, but because it is a book about a bisexual main character, I just got really frustrated that this particular phrase was used, and that was kind of towards the end, and it wasn't used in the context that it usually is used in, but the term was, I'm choosing a side now. And that, being bisexual, one of the things that you get kind of, I don't know, like niggled at is like, oh, why don't you just choose a side? Like, oh, you're either gay or you're straight, there's no like in between, pick a side. And that's always a thing that happens, and it's freaking awful. And so the fact that Na used that term, I I had a lot of issue with. And she didn't use it in the context of choosing between like a man and a woman. She used it in the term of, is she gonna like stand up the for like Armenian representation in media and stand up for, her people and her culture, or is she gonna just keep on doing what she's been doing? So it had nothing to do with her sexuality, but just the fact that that term was used in a book about bisexuality, it it didn't feel good. I'll put it that way. It did not feel good reading that sentence. And like that might just be a me thing and having grown up with bisexuality not seen as a real thing. So might just be a me thing, but yeah, I had some issues with that. That was another thing. I when you read books, there are always these bits where you're like, "Oh, it's probably been a few months," and there's a lot of kind of jumping through time because you don't want to read about the day-to-day life of these people. And so I had kind of been thinking that that's what was happening here, but at one point they were like, "No, it's been a week." So it's been a week, and in that amount of time, Na quit her job. She came out to her family. She started a whole new career. She formally broke up with her fiance-ish, had this whole new lease on life because of Erabuni. I'm like, that's a week. Like that. I don't know if I'm just too asexual for this, but like it takes longer than a week to make that kind of connection with someone, especially that deep of a connection. To like give up your career almost. And I know she didn't give up her career for Erabuni, but she kept playing it off as if she did it for Erabuni. And that, like, again, circles back to that issue that I was having with it. Oh, nice. Thank you very much. That's fine. I don't think many people enjoyed this book, which is fine. I think it doesn't have a super good rating on Goodreads anymore, if I'm correct. Like when it first came out, it was getting good reviews. Oh, it's a 3.69, so that's unfortunately higher than I would have expected. But most people are giving it 3 stars. And yeah, often that they're saying they loved the Armenian representation stuff, but didn't like anything else. And I will agree. The Armenian culture things were interesting, and they were the only parts of the book that felt, I don't want to say authentic, but they felt real because the characters themselves didn't feel like real people. But, you know, when they were oops, when they were in like the cooking class and the woman giving the lesson was talking about all the food things, I was like, yeah, that felt real. And I don't know, the Armenian culture stuff was good. Everything else was kind of not. Thank you, I appreciate it. Yeah, yeah, that's fair. I think, yeah, I tended to just overreact to that, which is fine. That's fair. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if the author is bisexual. Yeah, I did hear stuff about the author though, about how they were going through reviews and tweeting about them, about like the bad reviews, and talking about those reviews in like a negative way or something. And that's not super great. Not great. And made some people feel really awful, which is awful. Yes, exactly. She had an infatuation, but no deep feelings. That's for sure. Um, that's totally fine. As I've been saying, it's probably not one of our better picks. I say our better picks. I'm the one that picked it. Very sorry for that. Um, but we all got to read not super great books sometime. I would love to know, like, the people that gave it 5 stars. Okay, so they're talking about it being hilarious. I'd say more cringy, but that's fine. Um, anyways, I I don't think I paid attention to the acknowledgements because at that point I was pretty done with everything. Um, but I think I'm not going to do a super long live show for this one because I have not been enjoying it, and I don't like having a huge long discussion about a book I really hated because I feel bad for not liking it as much as I did. Yes, very subjective. um, but yeah, I'm sorry that this one is going to be very short, but I'm also kind of developing a migraine, so we'll do that. But our next book is Arthur and Teddy Are Coming Out, and the live show for that will be the first Saturday of October, which um, which I think is the 7th. So there is that. Again, if anyone has any books they would like to read, um, put them in the Discord, and they will hopefully get chosen. I feel really bad that I'm not wanting to continue this, but yeah, wish it was a better book than it was for me. Same, same. I need to read that. That'll be the one book I need to read by the end of the year, is that, because I haven't. But I'm so thankful for your dedication in reading that, Erin. It was amazing. Yes, so hopefully. I have high hopes because I know some people have really loved this book. So, looking forward to that one. Yeah, very sorry, but yeah, I'm probably going to end it here because it wasn't it. But hopefully the next one will be. So thank you to everyone who suffered through this book, or if you enjoyed it, thank you for reading a book. Sorry that I did not enjoy it, but hopefully our next book will be enjoyable, and I hope everyone has a good time in reading and in life. But thank you very much for being here.